Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to a special early edition. As you can see, probably over there, it's still daylight outside. So we're coming live to you from start at 4:15. So this will be, a little sober podcast than usual, but that happens. And I am welcomed. I got my buddy Tom here. Tom, welcome.
What's up, Robbie? Yeah. One of us is going to be continuing the drinking, and the other is going to work. So,
I'm coming from work. You're going to work.
Yeah, I'll be heading to work. Yeah, my schedule this next 2 weeks has been brutal, to say the least. Tonight's night 4 of 15 straight 12-hour shifts. So, needless to say, this is the only way we can get a show in this week and probably next week, too. So, we'll see. But nonetheless, we're here, and we're going to talk some football.
Yeah, let's talk a little college football. We start off with there, then we'll get into the NFL action. So week 2, we had up in your neck of the woods, there were one huge, one it was supposed to be a huge matchup, didn't end up doing so well. Then there was the big upset of the week. So Tom, I know you're a little biased, but let's talk both. Let's start. Which loss was worse? Was Michigan getting embarrassed by Texas, or was it Notre Dame losing at home to Northern Illinois after their big win in week 1?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. It's Notre Dame. Coming off that big win against A&M, you thought that this was going to be a walk in the park for him. Matter of fact, I was watching the game with a good friend of mine, and he was making a comment that, the flyover the stadium today was just one Coast Guard helicopter, and he's a Notre Dame grad, so he ate crow, we'll say. But no, if you go back, and I hate to bring this one up, Appalachian State, when they came to the Big House and beat Michigan, that game kind of set the tone for the program for the next few years, and it was hard for them to recover. So I look at Notre Dame losing to that program that only has, I think it's 10 or 11 top 10 victories all time. I think that's a loss that's going to sting a little bit more down the road. And then you see they brought in Riley Leonard from Duke, and they thought he was going to be the next coming, and Marcus Freeman has done such a good job with that program, and to experience this type of loss, it's kind of debilitating. So this week is going to be a big test to see how they can recover. But on the flip side of that, you look at Michigan coming off a national championship win, home game, their biggest test probably in the last couple seasons. And it was just a really, really big letdown. I think coming out of that game, you didn't realize how bare the cupboards really are in Ann Arbor. You knew the offense was going to be suspect at best. But the one thing you could kind of hang your hat on was their defensive prowess. And it wasn't there. It wasn't there right from the start. And that was the disappointing thing. And I guess the only bright spot of the situation was really Will Johnson. They never threw the ball on his side of the field. And so really the world didn't really get to see Will Johnson at his best. But Texas is a juggernaut, and we'll talk about them a little bit later.
Yeah, whenever we were kind of brainstorming what to talk about, this was one of those questions where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go Michigan, and and then here's why. And I couldn't get there. I couldn't think of how it could be a worse loss from them. And I even thought big picture, small picture. It's worse for Notre Dame. And so small picture, you lose at home to an unranked team, which means you are on thin ice the rest of the way. One more loss and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started me thinking, big picture, this is how it's going to be moving forward for them. This is the consequences of not joining a conference. Is now they can't schedule. They're going to be one schedule is going to be tough for them anyways, but to schedule marquee game, and this wasn't a marquee game by any means, but in the future to schedule marquee games, if you lose one of those and then you trip up to your SC, Michigan, who you normally play you don't have that chance of running the table. Like LSU losing to Southern Cal, that is a test your team. That is see what you got, and it doesn't matter in the playoffs because they can still run the table in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you're going to see this more and more. Tennessee already. You're looking at Tennessee, and we'll get to them or maybe, but Tennessee, you can say we can lose at Oklahoma, at Georgia, and then we're still in.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, the interesting part with Notre Dame is they literally went from kind of having maybe the easiest path, because if they would have, took care of business and throughout the season, go into this playoff undefeated, they were going to get a home game. The first round is going to be a home game. And then more often than not, they were going to play the lowest seeded, Power 5, which would have been probably an ACC team or a Big 12 team. So their path on a neutral field. So their path would have been easy. So they literally went from the darlings to they're like you said, they're at risk of not making it at all. So it's turbulent times in South Bend
because you got to think. You can talk about branding. You can talk about Notre Dame, like the committee would give them priority over, say a 2-loss Big Ten team or 2-loss or 3-loss SEC team. Brand loyalty. College football is on such thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the big picture college football from the Big Ten and the SEC taking the ball and just going home, just saying, hey, we're letting you guys hang around, but
they're dangling the carrot just long enough.
Yeah, but leave out a 2-loss Alabama over Notre Dame. Like it's fragile.
This just threw a wrench in the operation, and it's week 1. So
yeah, because and then just briefly, what are your thoughts about the Pac-10 trying to rebuild itself?
Yeah, I'm seeing
Pac-12,
that.
I guess.
Pac-12, yeah.
Pac-2, whatever it is.
I'm seeing that pop up right now. It's I mean, they got 4 Mountain West teams to commit, and they still have Oregon State, Washington State. I think that's it, right?
Who it was SDSU, Boise. Did Boise go?
Let's see. Boise State among 4. Let's see, who are they? Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State. I watched Fresno State come into the Big House and play damn good football. So that's no slouch. So
yeah, I mean it's just if you could pull UNLV, maybe Nevada. I mean those two schools, and
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State and Washington State are the only schools that didn't find a home. So it's like Mountain West. So we'll see. It's just interesting, and I think the Utah coach summed it up best a couple weeks ago when he said there won't be any other conferences but 2 super conferences within 5 years, and that's a major program coach making that claim. So yeah, I think you're right. The NCAA is just kind of like, that's why these Michigan claims and this and that, they're not going to go anywhere. And now the interesting thing is these Michigan players, these ex-Michigan players that are suing the NCAA for NIL money. We'll talk about that with, the rest of the crew when we're all together. I think that could be the nail in the coffin for the NCAA.
Yeah. I want to get into it more. Maybe if we can get Michelle on and Raj.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll
She'd have a good opinion.
But in a nutshell, the attorneys that are getting these players, he or she knows they've got the NCAA bent over, and it's just how many checks can you write until you're out of money? Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what's happening.
This is a brilliant move. I wonder how much the school is involved with helping push the narrative. But yeah, we'll take a deep dive into that on another episode here with the whole crew. I think that will be beneficial for all of us.
Yeah. So we talked about the ugly of week 2. Let's talk. Now I am positive you at least watched the first 3 quarters of the game on Saturday. Texas looked great. As it stands right now, through after week 0, week 1 and 2, who do you think are top 5 teams?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much status quo. If you run down the line, I got Georgia number 1. Texas number 2. Yeah, I watched most of that game. Unfortunately, it wasn't pretty. And yes, Davis Warren's story of beating cancer, it's great, but I just don't think he's the answer here. I've got Ohio State at 3. They put the wood to Western Michigan Saturday, and this is where it gets kind of muddy in my opinion. I got Alabama at 4 and Ole Miss at 5. I think those 2 teams are going to kind of flip flop most of the season. Mm-hmm. We talked about it last week. Lane Kiffin's got something to prove this year. I mean, he has absolutely started this season hot. But then on the outside, these are teams that I think can, within the next couple weeks, find their way into the top 5. It's your Tennessee Volunteers. They went to Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Classic and just put the wood to NC State. And Missouri, here's a team that kind of got gutted on the defensive side of the ball last year. One of their big cornerbacks is Lions' second-round pick, Enos Rackstraw. But they seem to have rebuilt back-to-back shutouts. Yeah, it's last week was against Buffalo. It's not powerhouses, but they're making it happen. They're winning big. So I think those are 2 teams you really got to look out for. And Ole Miss and with Lane Kiffin, is this the year that he can kind of win the big game? Yeah, he's winning the games he's supposed to, but the test will be, hey, you know what? Saban's not there in Tuscaloosa anymore. Is the iron hot for him to go get it? So we'll see. I think that the top 5 is gonna kind of fall somewhere within those most of the season.
Now, don't suck up to me just because your Big Ten fellas aren't on here with you. You got 4 out of 5 SEC teams in the top 5.
I'm a realist. You got to be real. And right now, that let's face it, until this Big Ten season plays out, until this season in general plays out, I've got to go by what I see. So
yeah. I was, again, thinking about last night and thinking about more. I thought I was prepared to go Texas, saying they had the best win. Then I'm like, well, hell, I forgot about Georgia demolishing Clemson. And so
in the second half, that was like a 7-3 game or something like that in the first half. And Dabo, I don't want to go into the portal. Sweeney just forgot to bring his team out for the second half.
Yeah. I'm with you. I got Georgia. Just give me the better coach until proven otherwise. Texas. I've got Ole Miss, and then I call me a homer. I've got Tennessee and then Ohio State. So similar top 5, different order. I'd sub Tennessee for Alabama, Alabama struggled a little bit past weekend, and yeah, I agree with you. And for everyone watching, you're welcome for the bet your nuts last week. I can't believe Vegas missed that so bad. The Tennessee Vols. I think I got them at -8, or that's when it was last week. Yeah, a B game and blew the doors off NC State.
Yeah.
The one that I'm surprised is Oklahoma. They've got them ranked at 15. I thought they looked really good week one. They struggled a little bit this weekend. So I think they're underrated. And honestly, Miami at 10. Well, Penn State should never be ranked in the top 10.
No.
Miami
Drew Aller is just
over it.
Garbage. Drew Aller. I mean, it's no thanks.
Anyone you see that is misranked as far as underrated, overrated?
Well, I mean, you look at USC, and I talked about them last week, and this will be the one Big Ten team I'll talk about. Their biggest problem last season was their defense. They couldn't stop Mickey Mouse if he was running the ball. Utah State this week, shutout. Anytime you pitch a shutout in any competition, I don't care if it's college, I don't care if it's pro, you're doing something right. You're game planning right. The changes they've made on the defensive side of the ball are being shown immediately. So
they switched from the 3-3-5 to 4 traditional defense now, right?
Yeah. So you look at, they took some heat. Raj kind of tried to defend it last year, which rightfully so. And was it a personnel issue? Maybe. But, you got to look at some of these kids don't really run that defense in high school. So they come in the defense and their schemes are completely changed. So maybe that was the case. But, they bring in a new DC and it's been night and day. So I think that's a team that you look at as possibly underrated. And I'm going to stay in the Big Ten. Oregon at 7. Week 1.
They have struggled.
Week 1 almost was as bad as upset as Northern Iowa at Notre Dame. Barely beating Idaho. And then this week, a 3-point win at home against Boise State. So all the hype coming into the season, and I think some of these teams, Oklahoma included, their name, and like I talked about with Michigan last week, I said they were not a top 10 team. I think their name early in the season gets them the rankings that they're at, and I think another poor performance by Oregon, you're going to see them slipping, and I don't really think this is going to be kind of the barometer for them this season because they're just too talented and they've got arguably one of the top 3 coaches in the country in Dan Lanning. So I think they'll get it right. But yeah, that team right now is kind of a head scratcher. They're winning, but barely.
So correct me if I'm wrong. If the playoffs started today, it would be based on these rankings. It would be Georgia, Ohio State. Then you go all the way down to Utah. They're in the Big 12, right?
They're the Big 12.
And then, Miami would be the ACC, then Utah. So you have the 12th rated team as the 4 seed.
Right. That's where, like I said earlier, where Notre Dame kind of had, the gravy train.
Yeah.
Going in here, like, oh, we're going to have to play, the 4th or the 10th or the 12th or the 10th, maybe ultimately rated team.
And then
in a second round in a neutral field. So,
and then it's the highest rated Power 5 is automatic, right?
The top 4 have the bid. Have the bye, I should say. The top 4 teams have the bye. There's the top 5 get the automatic bids. The top 4 get the bye. So
so Northern Illinois would be in.
No. They're not a Power 5. The MAC?
But no, the highest rated Power 5, non-Power 5 champion gets a bid.
I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works. We may need to do a little research
Clearly
to find out. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I mean, can you imagine? Northern Illinois goes from who to in the playoffs. Wow, that would be incredible.
I think that's how it works. Maybe not though. Maybe not. Well, you let's move on into, you got your Lions hat on, and so I'll tell you what, every year I forget how damn good the NFL is.
Oh yeah.
And it's week 1, Thursday, Friday, Sunday with Sunday ticket, red zone. It's just it's incredible. And just so I like probably most everyone. It was a 2 TV day for me. I had the NASCAR race on, but I had red zone on. I'm officially about to just stop having a TV for the Titans. It's just a waste of energy, space, and everything. What were your takeaways from week 1?
I guess really the NFL's great, but there's some bad teams in the NFL. There are really some bad teams. And I'm going to start with one, the Bengals. What the hell happened to Cincinnati? Joe Burrow decided to dye his hair bleach blonde. I think some of that hair dye, leaked into his body. He looks as uninspired as I've ever seen. His kind of private life breaks up with his longtime girlfriend, shows up in on the runway over in France, some fashion show. It seems like maybe his ego is getting in the way a little bit. There's rumors that his wrist is not fully healed, which kept him out last year. There was some video of him kind of shaking it and clutching it and really struggling to kind of grip a Gatorade bottle. So that's a home game. That's a team that some pundits were saying, we're top 5 in the power rankings.
That was the biggest spread of the weekend. Let me ask you this. I'm glad this was not planned. This was not on our agenda, but I'm glad you started with Joe Burrow. Because let me ask a question, because the Bengals were on my mind too. Is it possible Joe Burrow's just not any good? Like
I think it's very possible that the punishment he's taken early in his career, I mean, he was the Super Bowl year, he was sacked, I think, more than any other quarterback in the NFL. And he was sacked, I think, 3-4 times this week.
And his weapons have gone, I guess, just Jamar Chase now. And
they lost Joe Mixon, which Joe Mixon, was down in Texas doing his thing against the Colts. So, his not having T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins was ultimately his security blanket because the emphasis is always on Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So not having Higgins there. And the one thing that they've been missing for, since they were in the Super Bowl was a tight end. They don't have a tight end that in this day and age, I think you need a tight end. And, you look at some of the top offensive weapons in the NFL, they're tight ends. So he's never had that. So, and the offensive line is just not there. And yeah, I mean, then you go back to his college days. He was surrounded by Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They made him look good. So I think that's a good possibility.
How loaded that LSU offense was.
Oh, silly.
I mean, you have 2 of the best NFL wide receivers on the same team in college.
Yeah, so I think that's a possibility that he's just, run of the mill, and they just paid him, which in Cincinnati is not.
He could be Joe Flacco. One good run, and then
Flacco's got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
And look what he did in Cleveland, and boy, would Cleveland like to have him.
Oh, you're hitting on so Cincinnati being bad. The other my second takeaway is where you just went is, oh my God, Cleveland and Deshaun Watson.
It doesn't stop.
It looks like I'm kind of surprised he's still showing up for work. It looks like he got the bag and
yep.
hey,
Well, there's
the girls got the bag.
Yeah, right. And he got his bag. Well, we won't go there, but yeah, it's interesting to me because there's the new lawsuit it's like a refiling apparently, and there's a lot of people out there that think that this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back as far as this contract. And if I'm the Browns, I'm seriously looking at a way to get out of it. He's just
if I'm Jimmy Haslam, I'm calling up Roger Goodell and I'm being like, hey, can you do something to get me out of this contract? Whether you have to suspend him, ban him from the NFL, whatever you need to do, if you can get me out of this contract, I'd really appreciate it.
There may be a way to void it out. I think it's going to get real ugly and drawn out. But the bottom line is Deshaun Watson is just – his head is not anywhere near where it needs to be on the football field. And yes, they were missing Jedrick Wills and Conklin on the offensive line, so they were kind of battered up front. But here's a guy that's known historically for being able to evade tackles. He's athletic. He's able to use his legs. He just hasn't done that at all in Cleveland, and it's crazy
because they're in the AFC South. They're in the Titans division. Like Houston, it wasn't the Titans division. So when he was a number one pick, you don't get the number one pick if you're good as far as the team is. So I watched him on some terrible Texas teams, and he was still exciting. He had pop. He at least was a threat. Now it looks like you don't look like an NFL quarterback.
Well, and similar to Joe Burrow, I don't see emotion. I don't see any, him coming off the field throwing his helmet. It's you don't always want to see your guy doing that, but you want to see some sort of emotion. You want to see some sort of passion from the guy that's making 260 guaranteed. That hey, rile up the troops, and he just gets off the field, puts his helmet down, and sits down. And it's just there's nothing there. Is there injuries still, lingering? I think the biggest mistake Cleveland made was, disregarding Joe Flacco. Like Flacco wanted to stay in Cleveland. He was like an absolute hero to those fans. And only 8 weeks that he played and the numbers he put up. We're not having this conversation if Joe Flacco is still on that football team. So I think management. Yeah, James Thomas, he needs a massage. I don't think he needs a massage. That's probably the last thing he needs. I think ownership needs to take a very, very strong look at management here very soon and find out that the mistakes that have been made the last 2-3 seasons, they might need to clean house like Detroit did 5 years ago. So
well, and players like Deshaun Watson Joe Burrow may turn around. I think Deshaun Watson's done. But Burrow may turn around. I'm not sure. But those two are the examples of why the NFL players have to fight so hard to get guaranteed money. They're the only sport that doesn't have guaranteed contracts because, if we pay you and you stop playing, we want you out of here.
I mean, and they're getting the bag, as you say, and they're just not showing up. They're not. And that's the problem with longer-term deals. They play their ass off in a contract year. They get their money, and a lot of it's guaranteed. Haslam just kind of put the knife in every owner's back by doing a fully guaranteed deal. But you give them these figures up front, these guaranteed monies, and they don't perform. And it's just it does look bad for players down the line that want to come up with a big time long-term deal. And it makes ownerships for other teams hesitant. Man, I don't think I want to do this. So the state of Ohio, I saw a meme. I actually posted a meme. I said, they're not eating cats and dogs. And these are the cats and dogs they're eating. Yeah. It's the Browns and the Bengals. So Ohio is a shit show right now.
Well, and this is a huge difference in the NFL. There are well-run organizations and there are horrible-run
Yeah,
organizations.
and look at the standings. Look at who's winning
Yeah.
and who's not,
Well,
and you kind of figure it
well,
from there.
look at Kansas City. They're the torchbearer right now.
Mm-hmm.
They gave Mahomes $500 million about 3 years ago. That's the best contract in sports right now.
Mm-hmm. And they restructured it too. He just got it restructured.
Yeah, I think he's making like $40 million a year, and now Cowboys paying Dak $62 million a year. Like,
And Jordan Love, it's just Jordan Love had probably 6 good games in his NFL career.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I think the future is very bright for him, but you have a couple good years in all next season. You're the highest paid, for 5 minutes in league history. It's out of control. But yeah, it's.
yeah, they're stealing Mahomes for that contract.
Well, and then you look at what Brad Holmes did here in Detroit with Goff. He extends Goff, and then it just started the domino effect where then you look at Goff's deal, and at first you're like, that's a lot for him, but now you look at it and 25 or I think it's 30 for Goff, and they set the market for the O-line and receivers. So yeah, the teams that are well run internally are the ones that you're going to see winning down the. They're the ones that you're going to see representing in the Super Bowl. We'll see.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna my third takeaway. I'm just gonna stay on the negative. It is that where I live, which is halfway between Nashville and Atlanta, man, it's going to be a long year. And their team, though, both of those teams laid a huge egg. And I'll tell you who will not be getting the bag, and that's Will Levis. He made maybe the single dumbest play I have seen in at least 10 years. A pick six. Like, I was like, what's happening? Like, it's only his second year. We had high hopes coming into it, but man, the offense looked bad. Tony Pollard was the only bright side on the Titans. But you have a second-year quarterback. You have Ridley, Pollard, the free agent. You have Hopkins. You're thinking of there's going to be some hype, and then you lose to the Bears starting a rookie quarterback who didn't throw for 100 yards. It blew a 17-point lead.
Yeah.
Like just a terrible thing. And then my neighbors to the south, Atlanta, talk about the hype train not getting started. Good God. Cousins looked like he had never played an NFL game. They lost to backup starting quarterback, half quarterback in Fields, and at home also the Falcons looked terrible. James, if you're still watching, I'd like to get you're in Chattanooga. I'd like to get your pick on who you think had a worse day, the Titans or the Falcons. But yeah, both of them looked really bad, and it is going to make having the Sunday ticket a necessity in these parts.
Yeah. Here's another team that had a bad week, and a team that I think probably will be looking for a new coach by midseason, no later, who threw money at a quarterback after having a nice 2 playoff run a couple years ago. The Giants at home against Minnesota, who playing Sam Darnold absolutely shit the bed. Would they end up with 3 points, 6 points? I think just Danny Dimes is done. I think he'll be relegated to a backup. He's going to take his money and get the hell out of New York. Just a bad situation. Brian Daboll, who's the supposed offensive guru who worked wonders there upstate with the Bills, just hasn't been able to put it together in New York. And then you look at their first round pick a couple years ago, Kayvon Thibodeau. This guy doesn't want to be there. He is, this team is already after week 1. They've already lost the locker room. It's done in New York.
Hey, who was the quarterback? Do you remember that he was the backup at Green Bay, had a great game
Against the Lions.
Then went to Seattle. They paid him. Then he sucked. Then Russell Wilson.
Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
Flynn.
That's who Daniel.
He threw over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in Week 17 against the Lions.
That's who Daniel Jones is. Mm-hmm. Is Matt Flynn. He
had two great offensive games. They went on the road and won a couple games, and they gave him the money.
He's gonna make a great living being a backup. Around the NFL.
Sure. But here's a name real quick. I know we did more than 3 here. Here's a name that who'd have thought? J.K. Dobbins going for the I almost called them the Clippers, the Chargers. Before we go there, before we leave the Giants, what in the hell? I'm all about pushing the boundaries on uniforms, but what in the hell were they wearing on Week 1? They were celebrating 100 years, and they look like Montreal Canadian hockey uniforms. Yeah. It was fitting for how lousy they played on the field. They looked equally as lousy. So I'm there with you.
Go ahead with the Chargers talk.
Yeah, it's J.K. Dobbins goes from one Harbaugh to the next. Ironically enough, a University of Michigan Harbaugh as a former Ohio State player. He's hurt all the time. The last 2-3 seasons, he's had injuries. I mean, the skill set has always been there, but the question of his durability. 135 yards on 10 carries kind of was the key to that team winning, because Herbert did not look good there at quarterback. So that was kind of the one bright spot that I picked up on, after Week 1. Like, here's a guy that, and as a matter of fact, Christina's got J.K. Dobbins on her fantasy team. And she's like, what do you think I should do with him? I said, you keep him on your bench. Man, I'm surprised I haven't gotten my crap thrown on the front lawn for that one, but I was wrong, and I think a lot of other people are wrong on him too. So we'll see if he can stay healthy.
What was your surprise from Week 1?
I mean,
or who looked the best that you didn't think was going to have a good year?
Well, let's see here.
Well, I'll give you mine while you look.
Yeah.
To me, who impressed me the most was actually in a lot. Well, I got the winner, and I got honorable mention or runner up, whatever you want to call it. The team that looked the best to me that I wasn't expecting much of was the Cardinals. I thought they looked great. Didn't win, but the Bills are a Super Bowl contender for sure. They hung with them, barely lost. And I set my runner up, and I don't know if this is a product of who they played, but Tampa Bay looked good.
I'm going to use an old radio cliche. You stole my thunder here. I absolutely, 100%. Those are the two I would have picked. Going to Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. had like 4 yards receiving. I think he had 1 catch on 4 targets. He was not a factor one bit. And they took Buffalo to the the limits in Buffalo, which is not an easy place to play. And I was saying it last week. I think Tampa Bay, and that was my pick last week for teams that could be there. I think Tampa Bay. Well coached, Baker Mayfield, a full season under the same team. I know his offensive coordinator is now the coach in Carolina, but nonetheless, I think they're running probably similar offense. So there's familiarity with that offense with Baker, and boy, would Cleveland love to have him right now. But that's a good team on both sides of the ball, and they're coming into the Den here in Detroit this week, so that'll be another big test for Detroit. But yeah,
and don't discount that division. Like you have Atlanta, Carolinas. They maybe should get relegated.
They need to force that owner out because he's a disaster.
The Saints killed the Panthers, but the Panthers, it could have been a scrimmage in the dome that weekend.
Oh,
all right, let's talk rookie QBs. Would you think? So you got Bo Nix,
Jaden
Daniels, Williams, and am I missing one or just those three?
Those are the three that started.
Yeah.
Penix, who I agree with James Thomas said that he'll be, maybe starting at some point this year. I think he needs to get in and see some game action because he's well, first off, I think he's like almost eligible for the AARP card because he's after like 10 years in college. But yeah,
well, I think he'll get in there. We gave the Falcons such shit for drafting him, but maybe they were seeing what we saw Sunday.
But don't throw all that money at Cousins. No, I was, and this was the big hype draft. They were comparing it to other. I think it was the '83 draft. Very lackluster. I think Caleb Williams, and this is what I feared, talking in previous shows, Chicago is not an easy place to play. And if he continues to perform like that, he was 14 of 29 for 93 yards, and he didn't do anything on the ground either. If this continues, those fans are going to start, really giving it to him. And that's where mentally, how tough are you? And that my biggest hang up with Caleb Williams is his mental fortitude. I'm not exactly sure he's got it. I could be wrong. And, Raj is very opinionated of him and I respect his opinions. I think talent wise, he's got it, but it's a matter of having it and putting it together. Those are two tough roads. And Bo Nix, here's a quarterback that couldn't put it together at Auburn, goes to Oregon and fits their system. I think he averaged under 10 yards, air distance for his passes. I mean, he just had athletes at Oregon that made him look good. He goes 26 of 42, 138 yards and 2 picks. A very lackluster. The one bright spot, and we talked about who they lost to a minute ago, Jaden Daniels in Washington, 17 of 24, 184 yards. Okay. 88 yards on the ground, 16 carries. I think, here's the quarterback that kind of continued his style of play that he did in college. It kind of resonated into the pro game. He's playing in Washington, which, it could be tough, but that division, who knows? So we'll see. But I think all in all, maybe a C-, and I think I give him a C- because of Jaden Daniels' performance. Caleb Williams is going to have to get it right quick, or that cold weather's coming and that wind, and if things aren't going right in Chicago, man, those fans are going to give it, and those fans are as colder than that weather can be. So it could be tough sledding for Caleb.
Yeah, I agree with the most part. They look like
he's painting his nails. Yeah,
it looked like they were all rookie quarterbacks. Peyton Manning struggled. Everyone struggles their rookie year.
Sure,
but
the investment that they put into these quarterbacks, it was a kind of a different game back then. Now it's NFL, not for long. What have you done for me lately? I think the mindset is in fandom. They put so much into these players, and they're so hyped up coming out of college. I think the expectations of them succeeding as they come into the NFL are a little bit higher than they were, back in the day.
The thing, I was listening to PTI yesterday, and Tony Kornheiser said, and it's a great point. Daniels probably played the best of the three of them, but he's going to get himself killed running like that. And Tony he went to, hey, this reminds me of Robert Griffin III's rookie year. Played great, but you run too much and You're going to get hurt. This isn't college. They got guys. The defensive ends can chase you down.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about cornerbacks.
It happened to him in college, and I think that's Lamar Jackson's biggest downfall. As talented as he is, the offense revolves around him way too much, and when it means the most, I think he's so battered that he can't lead a team. So yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels had a knee injury last year, and he's coming out, and he's going to have to find a way to stay in the pocket. And one thing they showed on a highlight of his sliding ability, it's pretty bad. And he's openly admitted that he struggles with the slide because he's not comfortable with it. So the Commanders are going to have to find a way to kind of protect him and get him down when he needs to get down.
Absolutely. Yeah, next was ho-hum. Williams looked lost. But I mean, it's your first, you come from a wide open Lincoln Riley system into a more pro style with faster. I mean, the biggest difference between college and the pros is the speed of the defense and how small the pass windows are.
Right.
Like those cornerback in the NFL, you have to be precise or it is picked off, incomplete, or one of the other. All right, we are 47 minutes into it. Anything else you want to talk about before we get to the Bet Your Nuts?
I mean, I think really it's coming down to, like you said a little while ago, the teams that are supposed to win, they're winning. And I'll kind of.
Oh, let's preview tonight's game. What do you expect tonight to happen? We got a great game on Thursday night. Bills Dolphins.
Interesting game. Very interesting game. Let's see if Tyreek can try and not get arrested before he gets to the stadium. Oh, boy, that was a wild story. But anyways, who are the Buffalo Bills after week one? And how much of losing Steph Diggs is cost that team? But yeah, I think
they have been Miami's kryptonite.
They have been, and this game is at night. So I know a couple years ago they played a 1:00 game, and the way that stadium is designed, where the opposing team's sideline is in the sun, which I think is a huge factor.
If those of you if you have not been to Miami in the summer, you are on the surface of the sun.
It's hot. It's hot.
There was somebody on the radio to maybe it was yesterday when I was in Nashville, driving back and from Nashville. An NFL player said he changed uniforms 3 times playing. Well, he was like, I sweat through my pants. Like
the NFL Good Morning Football the other day kind of did, and it was in reference to after Detroit won Sunday night, that home field advantage. I was there. It was as loud as the playoff games. Ford Field has become a house of horrors for some opposing teams. It's just so loud. But the topic was, what's the hardest stadium to win in for a road team? And out of the 4 panelists, 3 of the 4 picked Detroit, and then the one that did not pick Miami, and it was because of the way the stadium's designed and the heat factor that, it takes everything out of you. So I think this game has offense written all over it. Tyreek's going to be out there with something to prove. You didn't talk about Jalen Waddle last week much. I think he's got the potential to put up some big numbers, but I think the fact that Miami is playing at home, even though I don't know how big of a home field advantage Miami gives you.
Bills Mafia travels, but it is a week.
Bills Mafia travels,
it's a week game, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to give the edge to Miami in this one. I just think offensively they have too much power. The big question mark with Miami is who's going to be the running back. So Devin Achane might be the go guy, but he's been dealing with some injuries because Mostert's out. So, but it's Tua, and statistically early on in seasons, we know Tua puts up big numbers early on, and then as the season progresses, it seems to dissipate. But early on, give me Miami. I think there's just too much power offensively in that game, and Tyreek Hill is going to be, I think, big game for him.
I'm with you. I have one rule in gambling: take the home Thursday night football team. So we're giving you some bet your nuts that you can have tonight. You'll be eating steak for Friday night. Get the lobster if you live close to the sea. So we are good. I'm with you. Miami -2.5. Lay it on them.
What's your, before we hit bet your nuts, what's your kind of the one matchup that you're looking forward to seeing this week?
So I like up in your neck of the woods. I want to see if Tampa Bay can. I don't expect them to beat Detroit, but I expect them. I want to see if it's a close game. And then I, unfortunately, am going to be in attendance watching paint dry between the Jets and the Titans. And then, also intriguing is Cincinnati at KC. That's how bad of a loss that New England loss was. Now you go to Arrowhead, probably 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
And people start to cast some doubts in the locker room.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what Tampa Bay was able to do last year in that playoff game, it took an interception late in the fourth to kind of cap the Lions' win that sent them to the NFC Championship game. So I think this is going to be a tough game. Detroit, and I don't think MCDC has got them thinking that it's going to be a cakewalk. He'll have them prepared. He always does. So that's definitely a game I'm looking at. Saints at Cowboys. What the Saints were able to do at home, yes, it was Carolina. But then you look at Dallas. Like, how good were Dallas last week? Because the Browns looked terrible. So how much of that game was just Cleveland being awful rather than Dallas being strong? Little bit of a rematch, interesting game. The 49ers going into Minnesota, where Minnesota put it to them last year on Monday night. So will they be able to recover? Probably the trickiest game of the week for me is Seattle going to New England. Seattle did not look very good. Their offensive line struggled. Geno didn't look good at all. Kenny Walker the third played pretty well. But New England's defense is stout. They absolutely put the clamps on Cincinnati. Anytime you win in the NFL is big. Anytime you win on the road in the NFL is even bigger. With Gerard Mayo, first game coaching at New England, replacing a legend in Bill Belichick. The pressure just was absolutely on him. Starting Jacoby Brissett, they go in and win. I think this is a very winnable game for New England against Seattle, who has to fly across the country for a 1:00 kick. I think, the pressure is definitely on Seattle. So some kind of dud games this week, but there's some, if you really kind of peel the layers off of it, this could be a pretty strong week again in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Even the dud weeks, they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
All right. So what are we doing to make people some money?
Well, you know what time it is.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
In this year, I think you and I, we kind of have gone down the NASCAR rabbit hole with our Bet Your Nuts in previous shows. We're going to reel it home. It's football season. This is definitely the time where we can definitely put some bets that could come through. We'll see.
You'll at least be comfortable watching what you're betting on.
Right. Exactly. So I'll start here. I'm going to go in the college ranks. I got a couple here since it's just two of us. I did a couple. And here James Thomas, Braves at home on Saturday. Chris Sale on the mound. He's going to be your Cy Young, no question. It's going to be him and then Scooble in the American League. But
I'll give him credit. He is pretty damn good at the Braves betting.
Every bet your nuts he's popped on the screen has worked out well. I'm sure he lives in on the top of a hill, kind of like Raj in a big mansion. So,
in fact, he does.
I'm sure he's put his money to good use. But I'm going to go Arizona +7 against Kansas State. I think Arizona is a team that doesn't get enough credit here. That offense is just phenomenal. A 7-point, dog. Yes, they're on the road, but Kansas State didn't look very good. Hasn't looked very good to start the season. So give me Arizona +7. I think Colorado has been absolutely exposed last year, and then last week they were absolutely mollywop, boat race, curb stomp, whatever you want to call it. Colorado has looked really bad. The rematch against arguably what could have been the game of the year last year in college football between Colorado and Colorado State, Colorado nudging them out in, it was like 3 overtimes. That was an unbelievable game. I'm going Colorado State money line. I think they're going to win this game at home. It's +225. So give me the Buffaloes. I'm sorry. The what are their? What's their amount of the Colorado State?
The Rams.
Rams. Yeah. Excuse me.
Colorado
and then
Buffaloes.
Yep. And then NFL. I'm going to do a little 3-legger parlay tonight. Dolphins -1.5. Sunday, Houston -6.5, and the Eagles -6.5. Put that together in a parlay. It's +557 on ESPN Bet. So,
all right. Yeah, I will echo bet the Braves on Saturday. And if you want to make some money tonight, like we just talked about it, Miami -2.5 at home, like the Thursday night game. But here, since there's only 2 of us, we're gonna compensate, and I'm gonna give you. Tom gave you a few. I'm gonna give you 2 absolute locks. Bet your nuts. Starting on Saturday, SEC teams rarely go on the road, and they rarely go on the road to Big Ten places. Alabama's going to Wisconsin this weekend. Line opened at +8. It has moved to +16 or 16.
Oh, what's happened?
Huge money on Alabama. I'm gonna go with the other side. They started at 8. I'm taking Wisconsin +16 because of that line movement.
Camp Randall's sneaky. They start doing the jump around there. Things can happen.
I don't think Wisconsin wins, but I think they cover. And you know what? I'm judging with how it's going. I may lock that in tonight because I think it's going to come back down to around 12. So I think I'm going to lock that in tonight. The other one that I really like is Vegas at Baltimore. They got the over-under set at 41.5. I like this Ravens offense. Carr has played – no, not Carr.
Minshew.
They'll get behind. He throws a lot. They'll get some touchdowns, some late garbage points. I like the over 41.5 on that. Just in the NFL, I generally like it. I do like Tom's Arizona +7 pick, but that's not my bet your nuts. My bet your nuts are Wisconsin +16, Baltimore over 41.5. Get rich, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Denny Hamlin at Watkins Glen this weekand too. Take it, book it. Number 11.
Yeah. All right, Tom. I know you got to get out of here. You got to go to work. I'm ending the day. Get ready for some Thursday night football. Let's get to the final thoughts.
Yeah, for me, the final thoughts. Final words. Yeah, you got me saying it now. I was always the one correcting you guys. We all know the NFL is the creme de la creme, the king of the castle. the king of all sports. But what we saw last Friday really is kind of disturbing to me. We saw the league go international first time in Brazil, which I got to hand it to those Brazilian fans. Man, were they excited. They sold out the stadium. I believe they said within 2 minutes of it going on sale, that place was sold out. The fans brought it. Absolutely. The game, disappointing. And here's why. 2 years ago, we had a Super Bowl in Arizona on natural grass that was the sloppiest could be. The players were slipping and sliding. And it really, I think, affected the overall play of the game, the overall quality of the game. The field last Friday was absolutely horrible. You couldn't take 5 steps on that field without slipping, without taking a divot. And it begs me to wonder, you're the biggest league in the world. Financially, I mean, it's not even close. I guess, soccer would probably money-wise, globally makes more than the NFL. But nonetheless, this is the product you put out. You take 2 of the top 5 teams in the NFL, the Eagles and Green Bay, and you put them on that field, and you got a minor league performance, and it was because of the field of play. And it was a shame because I don't think the Brazilian fans saw the best that those teams had to offer. Players falling down, they couldn't do routes. Corners couldn't cover receivers because they couldn't stay on their feet. It just was a bad look for the NFL. And if they're going to put these games internationally, they have to put the money out. And I don't care the big argument between, field turf and grass. There's the people that love the grass. Oh, the turf causes injuries. I don't care. I think grass causes just as many injuries as the turf. And ask, Aaron Rodgers, that happened on a natural grass field. If you're going to play internationally, you got to put your best product on the field. And you got to put the best field in those stadiums. And if it costs the NFL $1 million to put down a turf field, so be it. You look at the international soccer field, they come in and if it's a natural, if it's a turf field, they're putting grass on. They're bringing grass out because soccer is better played on grass. I get that. The NFL has to do the same thing, and they have to put, the best surfaces to get the best product on the field. I just think last week was kind of a dark spot, soft spot for the NFL globally. They're trying to build the product, which they are. Get it right. Put a good field in play. And I think most of the players would probably agree that, they didn't want to be on that field. It was just horrible.
Yeah, I was going to go. I thought you were going in a different direction with that when you started off NFL on Fridays. But I'll just echo what you said and just add on to it, and then we'll close it up. It's not even the NFL pay for it. You just say, hey, you want us in your city, you pay for it. We need this is our. It's like a backstage at a concert. Like as most of people know, I'm a big Swiftie, and I got to work Swift into a show, of course. But like you see the economic numbers that she brings to a city when she comes into their town. Well, the NFL's the same. It's just like, hey, we're coming to Brazil, we're coming to London, where we're bringing in all this money. Well, take 100,000, 200,000, whatever it takes, but we need this surface for our players to be on. And they'll be like, sure, that's a great trade-off, And so, but I agree with you. Yeah, if you're going to, not if, you are going to play overseas or internationally, not necessarily overseas. Not a geography major, but I know that countries do connect. Yeah, you're gonna you need to have the best product, and so yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's just what needs to happen.
Did you happen to see the Germany game this year?
I did. I don't remember it necessarily. Which one was that?
It's the Germany game coming up this year.
Who's that?
Giants and the Panthers.
Okay, maybe you get off, maybe you back off that heavy-handed negotiation when you're sending that over there.
I'm telling you, I saw a tweet.
Sorry, German.
Like, what did Germany do to deserve this? Probably not the best comment to make because we all know. But anyways,
yeah. Sorry, Germany.
Yeah, she's.
Well, we will try to be back on our normal time. Get the four of us together. But we're going to be, popping in. But thanks for watching. Everyone like, subscribe, follow, all those things you do to all other podcasts. Do it to ours also.
Spread the word.
Yeah.
Share.
I appreciate it. Tom, enjoy your evening at work. And I'm sure we'll be texting throughout the game.
Oh, absolutely. We'll see you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless